Guys, stop getting ripped off by your car insurance company and check this out.
Okay, are you ready?
All right.
Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisa Shri Rupam Jatan Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Shakaitam Savadhutam Parijanashtam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Danta Vishakhantam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Ivasadi Gaurata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Ivasadi Gaurata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare
Hare Krishna Mata is the Pranam all glory to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Let us begin with Mangalacharana prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. సో యాక్చువల్‌గా తెలుగు స్కానింగ్ అయిపోయింది మాది యాక్చువల్‌గా 10 మార్నింగ్ వాక్స్ వరకే ఉండే. సో మనం డైరెక్ట్‌లీ ఇంగ్లీష్‌లో చదువుదాము. సో లెట్ మీ ఓపెన్ 11th ఆన్వర్డ్స్. యెస్, ఓకే. 11th మార్నింగ్ వాక్. దిస్ వాస్ ఇన్ May 15, 1973. Same location, Los Angeles, Cheviot Hills Park. Srila Prabhupada is accompanied by his disciples, Dr. Singh and other students. Yeah. Please read Mataji. Venela Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah, Tulsi Mataji unnara amru. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, ఈ చదువుతారా Mataji ఈ సెక్షన్ డిటెక్టింగ్ ద స్పిరిట్ సోల్. తెలుగులో చదవట్లేదు. తెలుగులో 10 మార్నింగ్ వాక్స్ వరకే స్కాన్ చేసి ఉన్నాయి Mataji. సో అందుకే డైరెక్ట్లీ.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, I'll read. Scientists find it very hard to see the spirit soul. They say its existence is very doubtful. How can they see it? It is too small to see. Who was that seeing power? Still, they want to sense it by some means. Srila Prabhupada. If you inject someone with just 1/100th of grain of very venomous poison, he dies immediately. No one can see the poison or how it acts, but it is acting nevertheless. So why don't the scientists see the soul by its action? In such cases, we have to see it by the effect. The Vedas say that because of minute particle called the soul, the whole body is working nicely. If I pinch myself, I immediately feel it because I am conscious throughout the whole of my skin. But as soon as the soul is out of my body, which is the case when my body dies, you can take the same skin, and cut and chop it, and nobody will protest. Why is this simple thing is so hard to understand? Is this not detecting spirit? We may detect the soul in this way, but what about God? First of all, let us understand the soul. The soul is a sample God. If you can understand the sample, then you can understand the whole. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very simply saying Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yeah, easy to understand what is the active conscious body, what is the non-active, right? The example is pinching the body, then we get the feelings. If dead body, if you pinch it, doesn't respond because soul is left the body, right? That is a minute particle in our body and it spreads all over the body with the consciousness. That's what it is, detecting the spirit soul. That means as long as we are living means the spirit soul is still there, right? When material body left, spirit soul left the material body, it's called dead body. It's not moving. Even though it cut into pieces, it won't protest. But Prabhupada is saying that it's simple to understand why these scientists won't understand. Yes. Modern science help or harm? Yeah. Vanilla Mata, you want to read? Hare Krishna Mata. Yeah. Likita Mata, please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Modern science help or harm? Dr. C. Scientists are in the process of trying to create life. Srila Prabhupada. Process of trying to. That we kick out. That we do not accept. A beggar is saying, I am trying to be a millionaire. We say, when you become a millionaire, then talk. Now you are a poor beggar. That is all. The scientists say that they are trying. But suppose I ask you, what are you? Will you say I am trying to be? What are you now? That is the question. We are trying is not a proper answer. What to speak of a scientific proposition? Dr. C. Well, although they haven't been able to create life so far, they say that soon they should be able to do so. Srila Prabhupada. Any rascal may say that if you say in the future, I shall be able to do something extraordinary. Why should I trust or believe you? Dr. Singh. Well, the scientists say they have done so much in the past and they will accomplish more in the future. Srila Prabhupada. In the past, there was death and people are dying now. So, what have the scientists done? Dr. Singh. Helped them. Srila Prabhupada. Scientists have helped to minimize the duration of life. Formerly, men lived 100 years. Now, they seldom live more than 60 or 70 years. And the scientists have discovered atomic energy. Now, they can kill millions of men. So, they have helped only in dying. They have not helped in living. And still, they dare to declare that they will create. Dr. Singh. But now we have airplanes and Srila Prabhupada. Just the scientists can stop death. They can't stop birth. They can't stop disease, and they cannot stop old age. So they have they have what have they done? Formerly, people used to become old, and nowadays they are becoming old. Formerly, people used to become diseased, and now they are becoming diseased. Now there is more medicine and more disease. So, what have they accomplished? Scientists have not helped improve the order of world. We are going to challenge all the rascal scientists who say that life has grown out of matter. The fact is that matter has grown from life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yes. Mhm. Same point. Why they don't solve the problems of real problems of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi. That's the thing. Yes. Vanilla Mata, you want to read? The Illusion of Progress.
Okay. The illusion of progress. Srila Prabhupada. How long can science cheat people? 100 years, 200 years? They cannot cheat them for all time. Dr. Singh. Cheating has been going on since time immemorial. So perhaps they think that they can continue forever. Srila Prabhupada. Not since time immemorial. Science has been cheating people only for the past 200 or 300 years, not before that. Dr. Singh, oh really? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, for the last 200 years, they have been preaching that life comes from matter, not for thousands of years. And the cheating will be finished in another 50 years. Dr. Singh. Yes. Now there is so-called anti-intellectual movement. People are rebelling against science and modern progress. Srila Prabhupada. And what is that science? It's not science, it is ignorance. Ignorance is passing for science and religion is passing for religion. But this cheating cannot go on for long because people are becoming intelligent. Dr. Singh, in Newsweek, one of the latest magazines in United States, there was an article about the degradation of Christianity. The article included a cartoon picturing the devil causing earthquakes. There was recently a very large earthquake in South America that killed many thousands of people. The cartoon attributed such things to devil, and right next to him it showed Richard Nixon presenting himself as a follower of Christ, but bombing Southeast Asia. In this cartoon, the devil turned to Richard Nixon and said, "It's hell keeping up with Christians." Srila Prabhupada. Yes, people will. Yes, people will criticize that way. People are becoming advanced. How long can they be cheated by so-called science and so-called religion? If Mr. Nixon loves his countrymen, why does he not love his country's cows? They are also born in the same land and they also have the same right to live. Why are they killed? Thou shalt not kill. But animals are being killed. That, Prabhu, can you scroll? That is imperfection. Krishna embraces both cows and Radharan. That is perfection. Krishna even talks with the birds. One day on the bank of Yamuna river, he was talking with a bird because he speaks even in the language of the birds. An old lady saw this and was struck with wonder. Oh, he's talking with a bird? Dr. Singh, you mean he was actually talking the way birds talk? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, one of Krishna's qualities described in the Vedas is that he can speak any language. He is the father of all living beings, and father can understand the language of his children. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer. Actually, except for those who are Krishna conscious, no one can have any real knowledge, nor can anyone enjoy. One simply suffers, but he thinks the suffering is enjoyment. This is called Maya or illusion. In America, people work hard day and night and they think I am enjoying. This is Maya. A conditioned soul cannot enjoy anything. He simply suffers, but he thinks he is enjoying. Therefore, in Srimad Bhagavatam, the conditioned soul is likened to the camel. The camel is very fond of eating thorny twigs that cut his tongue. While he's eating them, blood issues from his tongue and mixes with the thorny twigs. They become little tasty, and he's thinking, "Oh, these twigs are very nice." This is called Maya. Maya means that which is not. Ma means not, and Ya means this. So Maya means this, not this. This is the explanation of Maya or illusion. The scientists are in Maya because they think they are improving things and becoming happy. But this world, along with everything in it, will eventually be finished because it is Maya. It is not what we think it is. As Srimad Bhagavatam explains, the materialists are thinking they are becoming victorious, but they are actually being defeated.
Yes, Mataji. It's a big discussion actually. Yeah, that chewed. That's where Srila Prabhupada writes in seventh canto. Srila Prabhupada in Prahlad Maharaj teachings. Chewed. This is an example, camel example. Feeling that camel is very fond of eating thorny twigs that cut his tongue. That material happiness is like that. While he is eating them, blood issues from his tongue, blood tissues issue from his tongue and mixes with thorny twigs. They become little tasty, and he's thinking, "Oh, these twigs are very nice." This is called Maya. So temporary happiness is like that. Temporary happiness is just a camel eating own blood, fleshing our own blood. Maya means that which is not. Think about our bodies also. So this body is not ours. It is changing every minute second. It is changing. The soul is witnessing that body is changing, right? So Prabhupada mentioned here that is called Maya. Maya means that which is not. In our body, which is real, soul is real. All connectivity, activities which connects to Lord, so that are real. That is not Maya. That is real knowledge and that is real activity. Right? So how nicely explaining in this talk. Right? One point in the 18, what is saying? Another Krishna embraced both cows and Radharani, that is perfection. Krishna even talks with the birds. One day on the bank of the Yamuna river, he was talking with a bird. So Krishna, because he is sitting in every living entity, he knows the language of each living entity. That's where he got everything. He's a perfect person, right? So he got to know everything. What birds talk, what other animals speak. Yeah, the title itself is saying, what is saying title? The illusion of progress. Scientists are so much advanced for this various, scientific advancement, but still at any point of time, they cannot solve the real problems of life, period. Yes. That's where we have to take shelter at the, mother Vedas. Yes. You would understand proper knowledge through, Vaishnava Acharyas. They have given this knowledge, right? How he is explaining Srila Prabhupada. But last listen. But this world, along with everything in it, will eventually be finished because it is Maya. It is not what we think it is. As Srimad Bhagavatam explains, the materialists are thinking they are becoming victorious, but they are actually being defeated. So whatever scientific advancement comes in next few years and next decades, these problems are always there. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, material bodies, and these are all materialistic. Whatever they given knowledge is complete material knowledge. It's not spiritual knowledge, which helps on the soul platform. Only spiritual knowledge helps on the soul platform. Understand who is he, right? Yeah. Yogic weapons. Let me read. Srila Prabhupada, you have no power to drive away this mist. Scientists merely explain it with some word jugglery, saying that it contains certain chemicals. He laughs. But they have no power to drive it away. Dr. Singh, they do have an explanation as to how the mist is formed. That they may have, and I may have that also. But that is not very great credit. If you really know how it is formed, then you should be able to counteract it. Dr. Singh, we know how it is formed. Then discover how to counteract it. Formerly in Vedic warfare, the atomic Brahmastra was used. And to counteract it, the opposing army would have to use a weapon that would transform it into water. But where is such a science today? Dr. Singh, mist is something like milk. Milk looks white, but actually it is a colloidal suspension of certain protein molecules. Similarly, fog is a colloidal suspension of water. So if you could create some type of fire, the mist would be immediately driven away. Water can be driven away by fire, but that you cannot do if you were to explode a bomb. It would generate heat and all the mist would go away. Karandara. That might damage the whole city. Srila Prabhupada. Everyone knows that fire can counteract water, but you cannot drive away the mist without killing people or destroying property. But by nature's way, as soon as the sun rises, the mist is vanquished. The power of the sun is greater than your power. Therefore, you have to accept that inconceivable power exists. Inconceivable అంటే మన కళ్ళు చూడలేనిది. ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఏం చెప్తుంటే sun's power, sun rising power, one of the power. The mist, how can it's vanquished? Naturally by sun rises, right? The power of the sun is greater than your power. Therefore, you have to accept that inconceivable power exists. Yeah. So in the nature, so many mystics which we cannot realize actually. Sun setting, sun rising, sun setting, seasons, how it works, how it is working. This is the summer season, this is the winter season. How it's working, because there is a perfect person who created, at what time this has to be done. There has to be come into play. Right? Yeah, because it's a supreme creator, designer, architect, and everything. Whatever the different titles there, it applies to all that created person, that supreme personality of God. Yeah, symptoms of God. Yes, just now who joined? Let me see. Pallavi Mata, Hare Krishna, I would like to read symptoms of God.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yeah. Shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes. Join.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada, without accepting the principle of inconceivable power, no one can understand God. God is not so cheap, and that any so called yogi can become God. Such imitation gods are for rascals and fools. Those who are intelligent will test whether or not such a person has inconceivable power. We accept Krishna as God because he has demonstrated his inconceivable power. As a child, Krishna lifted a big hill, and Lord Rama, an incarnation of Krishna, constructed a bridge without pillars by floating stones on water. So one should not accept God cheaply. Nowadays, some rascal comes along and says, I am an incarnation of God, and another rascal accepts him. But Lord Rama and Lord Krishna actually demonstrated their so, inconceivable power. Sometimes people say the descriptions of their activities are just stories or myths, but these literature were composed by Valmiki, Vyasadeva, and other acharyas who are all great and vastly learned sages. Why would these great sages simply waste their time writing mythology? They never said it was mythology. They treated the accounts as actual facts. For instance, in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vyasadeva tells of a forest fire in Vrindavana. All of Krishna's cowherd boyfriends became disturbed and looked to Krishna for help. He simply swallowed up the whole fire. That is inconceivable mystic power, that is God. Because we are tiny samples of God or Krishna, we also possess inconceivable mystic power within our bodies, but only in very minute quantities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes, that's okay. It's misleading actually. It's not mythology. It's all historical, actual facts. Ramayanam, Mahabharatam. All these scriptures are real actually. It was historical. It was happened once upon a time, 5,000 years ago. Krishna spoke in this Bhagavad Gita on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. These are all real, but people are, TV serials. These guys saying that mythology, myth. It's not a myth. It's real. Prabhupada, how is saying that it's not a myth. It's real, actual facts. They treated the accounts as actual facts, right? Yeah. Yes. Okay, Mataji. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Tulsi Mata, please read this section. Scientific knowledge comes from Krishna.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Scientific knowledge comes from Krishna. Krishna Kanti. The doctors marvel at the complex nature of the human brain. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, but it is not the brain that works the body. It is the spirit soul. Does a computer work by itself? No, a man works it. He pushes the button, then something happens. Otherwise, what is the value of the mission? You can keep the mission for thousands of years, but it will not work until a man comes to push the button. But who is working? The mission or the man? Similarly, the human brain is also mission, and it is working under the direction of Paramatma. My expansion of God within everyone's heart. An expansion of God within everyone's heart. Scientists should accept God and his mystic power. If they don't accept, if they don't, they should be considered foolish. On the basis of transcendental knowledge, we are directly challenging many big scientists and philosophers. The other day, the other day, you brought that chemist and I told him, you are foolish. But he was not angry. He admitted it, and I defeated all his arguments. Perhaps you remember. Dr. Singh. Yes, in fact, he acknowledged that perhaps Krishna didn't give him all procedural steps needed to perform his experiments. Srila Prabhupada. He is again Krishna. So why should Krishna give him any facilities? If you are again Krishna and you want to credit without Krishna, you will fail. You must first be submissive, and then Krishna will give all the facilities. We dare to face any scientist or philosopher and challenge him. How? On the strength of Krishna. I know, I know that when I talk with him, Krishna will give me the necessary intelligence to defeat them. Otherwise, from the viewpoint of scientific qualification, they are much more qualified than we. We are laymen before them, but we know Krishna, and Krishna knows everything. Therefore, we can challenge any scientist just as small child can challenge a very big man because he knows my father is here. He clutches the hand. He clutches the hand of his father, who makes sure that nobody can harm him. Dr. Singh, is the human form of life spoiled for those who do not try to understand Krishna consciousness? Srila Prabhupada, yes, people who do not try to understand their relationship with God simply die like animals, like cats and dogs. They take birth, eat, sleep,
beget children, and die. This is the sum. This is the sum total of their human life. These rascals think I am this body. They have no information of Atma. Atma means the self or the individual soul. Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita gives us knowledge about the Atma, but the people are unaware of this. People are unaware of knowledge given to human society in the Vedic literature. For example, the Vedas inform us that cow dung is pure. Here in America, especially, people bring their dogs onto the streets to pass stool. Of course, the dog stool is very impure. Germs thrive in it. But people are such rascals that they do not consider this. Instead, they distribute dog stool everywhere. But there's no cow dung to be seen, even though the Vedas say that cow dung is pure. Here is a sign: littering illegal, but dog stool is allowed. Just see how foolish people are. It is illegal to drop a paper on the grass, but your dog is allowed to pass stool. The government authorities will not allow you to bring even one mango from other country, but they will allow your dog to distribute its stool everywhere. Although this stool is full of infectious germs. Hare Krishna.
He was looking at while walking. He was his observation, Srila Prabhupada observation. That's what. Yeah. So the title itself says scientific knowledge comes from Krishna. Unless we understand Krishna, all of knowledge is nothing, no use. That's where that scientist is quoting that he is against Krishna. Why should Krishna give him any facilities if that credit is not giving to Krishna for all these metal elements when he perform the laboratory and various procedural steps, whatever. Is not taking credit, is not giving credit to the creator. That's why he's defeated. Similarly, on the otherwise, from the viewpoint of scientific qualification, they are much more qualified than we. We are layman before them, but we know Krishna. Krishna knows everything. Therefore, we can challenge any scientist. Just as a small child can challenge a very big man because he knows my father is here. He clutches the hands of his father who makes sure that nobody can harm him. The faith in Krishna. If we faith in Krishna, if we faith in Krishna's instructions, we can challenge and we can defeat anybody with the no shining lamp of knowledge, right? So this dog stool and cow dung explained here. Dog stool, here in this US actually, they specially take care of dogs to they take out the dog and pass that stool and this was looking like Prabhupada was observed this and saying that. But here, cow dung is pure. Why it's mentioned in the Vedas? Because cow is a sadhu jantu. It's called another sadhu jantu. Right? Cow in mode of goodness. But people are foolish. They give importance to dog and dog's stool, and they're taking care of dogs. Yeah. Yes. Venala Mataji, please read the space program.
Yes, bro. The space program, a childish waste of time and money. Dr. Singh, when the astronauts returned from the moon to the surface of the Earth, the scientists in the space program were very cheerful. They thought that the astronauts might have bought some new gems as yet unknown. So they put astronauts in quarantine for several days to make sure that Srila Prabhupada. First of all, find out whether they have gone to the moon. I'm not sure. 16 years ago, when I wrote Journey to the Other Planets, I remarked that the scientists were childish in their attempts to explore the outer space and would never be successful. Many years later, when I visited San Francisco, a press reporter asked me, "What's your opinion about the moon expedition?" I told him, "It is simply waste of time and money, that's all." Krishna Kanti. The space program recently had another failure. Srila Prabhupada. That is always happening. What was it? Krishna Kanti. They set up a space vehicle to orbit the Earth and act as a sort of space outpost, but it failed. It cost $2 billion. Srila Prabhupada. Why are they wasting time and money in that way? Krishna Kanti. They were criticized in the newspapers. Srila Prabhupada. They are simply childish fools. What have they gained in the last how many years? For how many years have they been trying to go to the moon with their Sputnik? Srila Prabhupada. But they were trying for many years before that. So let us say for 25 years they have been trying. They have not gained anything except dust, but still they are trying. How obstinate! The space program will never be successful. Dr. Singh, they say that in future they want to go to the subsurface of Mars. Srila Prabhupada, they are all becoming big men with their statements about the future. Dr. Singh, they say it will happen in about 10 years. Srila Prabhupada, so what if they say 1 year? They may say 10 years or 1 year, but we do not accept such propositions. We want to see what they are doing now. Dr. Singh, they are developing the technology using small scale models. Srila Prabhupada, they are simply childish. In my childhood, I used to watch tram cars go along the rail. Once I thought I shall take a stick and touch it to the wire, and I shall also go along the rails. The scientists, with all their plans, are just childish. They spend so much time and money. But what is their purpose? Their effort is hopeless because they do not actually know the purpose of life. The scientists are spending large amounts of money and politicians are financing them, but the result is zero. They are like a doctor who doesn't understand a particular disease but still says to his patient, all right, first try this pill, and if that doesn't work, then try this pill. The doctor will never admit that he doesn't know the remedy for the disease. The scientists are simply bluffing and cheating. They cannot solve the real problems of life, birth, death, old age, and disease. And therefore, all their programs are taking place on the utopian platform, which in Sanskrit is called Akasha Pushpa. Akasha Pushpa means a flower from the sky. All their efforts to know the truth by exploring outer space is like trying to pluck a flower from the sky. To give another example, the scientists act like foolish ducks. In India, we may sometimes observe a duck following all day behind the bull. The duck is thinking that the testicles of the bull are fish. In India, this is a common sight. The bull is walking and all day duck is walking behind, following that big fish and thinking it will drop and I will eat it.
Yeah. Childish waste of time and money. See, $2 billion in that time. $2 billion. Yeah. $2 billion in that time means so much money actually. See, what is that curiosity? They wanted to see some life in the other planets. Life forms already there. As per Vedic literature, it is mentioned. Prabhupada's worry is it's a simply waste of time, money, energy. Why don't you use this money, spreading or giving proper knowledge? That's where is a worry. So all these scientists are spending large sums of money. Politicians are financing them, but the result is zero. ఎప్పటికి కాదు యాక్చువల్గా ఇప్పుడు కూడా చూస్తున్నాం మనం. నవ్ ఆల్సో వీఆర్ సీయింగ్ మార్స్ సైంటిస్ట్, మార్స్ ఎక్స్పెడిషన్, different planets, especially Saturn, different expeditions are going on. What is the use? Are we going to live there? It's a foolish. In Prabhupada terms, it's a foolish time, wasting time, money. People's actually they're all tax payable. All of people's money only wasting in that way. Example is given, right? The Akasha Pushpa, a flower from the sky. All their efforts to know the truth by exploring outer space are like trying to pluck a flower from the sky. But ఏం లేదు, ఏదో ఉందనుకొని తీస్తున్నారు అనమాట. ఇంకో ఎగ్జాంపుల్ డక్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ చెప్పాను. అది చూస్తుంటే ఫిష్ అనుకున్నారు, టెస్టికల్స్ ఆఫ్ బుల్. అట్లా ఉంటుంది అనమాట సైంటిస్ట్ల యొక్క అనాలిసిస్. 13th morning walk, December 2, 1973. This is another place, December 2nd, 1973, on the shores of the Pacific Ocean near Los Angeles. His disciples, Dr. Singh, Hridayananda Das Goswami, Krishna Kanti Das Adhikari, other students. Just now I have seen, okay, whoever not read. Hemamata Hare Krishna, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhu.
The devotee
The
beyond.
devotee beyond desires. Srila Prabhupada. Now, who knows the difference between the Karmi, Gnani, the Yogi, and the Bhakta? Hridayananda Das Goswami. The Karmi wants to enjoy the gross senses, the Gnani wants to enjoy the subtle mind, to mentally speculate, and the Yogi wants to manipulate the universe with mystic powers. Srila Prabhupada. These are all material powers. Hridayananda Das Goswami. And the Bhakta has no material desires. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, and unless one is actually desireless, he cannot be happy. The Karmi, the Gnani, and the Yogi are all full of desires. Therefore, they are unhappy. Karmis are the most unhappy. Karmis are the most unhappy. The Gnani is a little less unhappy, and the Yogi is still more advanced. But the Bhakta, the devotee, is perfectly happy. Some yogis have a mystic power that enables them to snatch pomegranates from trees in another country, thousands of miles away. Others can fly without an airplane, and some yogis can hypnotize anyone. Then they come to someone and say, "This is God," and their victims believe them. I have actually seen such magical nonsense. Krishna Kanti. Is a pure devotee more merciful than Krishna? Srila Prabhupada. Yes, a real Vaishnava, a real devotee, is even more merciful than Krishna. Take Lord Jesus Christ, for example. It is said that Lord Jesus took everyone's sins upon himself, yet he was crucified. We can see how merciful he was. Today, rascals think, let us go on committing sinful activities. Christ has taken a contract to suffer for us. There is a long, thoughtful silence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes. Yeah, the devotee beyond desires. So there are 4 kinds of personalities, right? Karmis, Jnanis, Dhyana Yoga, Dhyanis, Ashtanga Yogis, and then Bhaktas. Bhaktas without any desires, only desire to serve Krishna. All other three kinds of personalities, some material motive. Karmi having some material motive, Jnani has some material motive, Ashtanga Yogi has some material motive to get those siddhis. But Bhakta is only desire for Krishna, to serve him and love him. That's what it is saying, right? Yeah. All Bhakta is no material desires. Yes, unless one is actually desireless, he cannot be happy. The Karmi, the Jnani, the Yogi, all are full of desires. Therefore, they are unhappy. Karmis are the most unhappy. Jnanis are the little less unhappy. The Yogi is still more advanced. But the Bhakta, the devotee, is perfectly happy. Some yogis have a mystic power that enables them to snatch pomegranates from trees in another country, thousands of miles away. Others can fly without an airplane, and some yogis can hypnotize anyone. Then they point to someone and say, "This is God." Their victims believe them. I have actually seen such magical nonsense. So whatever this karmis, jnanis, and yogis, some material benefit, some material desires behind it. Yeah, devotees' difference is that's where bhaktas are a difference from them, because desireless. They have desires. That desire is to serve and love Krishna. That is the only desire that bhaktas having. Right? Yeah. Yeah, right. Now, Likita Mataji, please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. The difference between matter and spirit. Dr. Singh, scientists say that trees also have consciousness. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, that is true. But a tree's consciousness and my consciousness are different. My consciousness is more developed. If you pinch my body, I will immediately protest. But if you cut a tree, it will not protest. Actually, everything has consciousness in it. It is simply a question of degree. The more covered consciousness is by matter, the more it is considered material, and the more consciousness is developed, the more it is considered spiritual. This is the difference between matter and spirit. Spirit souls are everywhere. They are trying to come out of the earth, points to the grass. As soon as there is an opportunity, they want to express the consciousness. Those souls who descend from higher planets to this planet sometimes fall down to the ground in raindrops. Then they become grass and gradually evolve to higher forms of life. Dr. Singh. Oh, that is terrible. Srila Prabhupada. These are the workings of subtle energy. What do the scientists know about this? Actually, their knowledge is carried away by Maya, illusion, and they are thinking, oh, I am a very learned scholar. Correct.
Yes, Mata. Difference between matter and spirit is giving an example of tree. A tree's consciousness and my consciousness is different, right? If we cut the tree, it won't having just like feelings of our bodies, but still consciousness is there, covered consciousness. Actually, everything is consciousness in it. It is simply a question of degree. The more covered consciousness is by matter, the more it is considered material. See, that's where, bound chara achara, chara achara. Achara means non-moving. Non-moving tree okati. Everything is completely conscious. Different degrees of covering. That's where Prabhupada's definition. The difference between matter and spirit. Right. Yeah. Soul transplants. Yeah. Pallavi Mata, you want to read?
Yeah, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Soul transplants. Dr. Singh, Srila Prabhupada, what about heart transplants? We know that the spirit soul is within the heart, but nowadays doctors can replace an old heart with a new one. What happens to the spirit soul in each heart? Does the person who receives a new heart also get a new personality? Srila Prabhupada, no. Dr. Singh, why not? Srila Prabhupada, suppose I get up from one chair and go sit in another chair. Does my personality change? I may change my seat, but does that mean I have changed? Dr. Singh, but the heart is changed, and the heart contains the spirit soul. Srila Prabhupada. The Vedas describe the heart as a sitting place for the soul. So, when they transplant hearts, they simply change the soul's seat. The same soul remains. If they could prove that by changing the heart they have increased the patient's duration of life, then that would prove they have caught the spirit soul. But they cannot increase the duration of life because people have acquired their bodies by a superior arrangement. You have this body and you must live within it for a certain period. If you simply change one of the parts of your body, that will not help you prolong your life. That is impossible. The doctors think that by changing the heart they will increase the duration of life, but that is not possible. Dr. Singh, so a heart transplant is a kind of artificial transmigration of the soul from an old heart to a new one. Srila Prabhupada, yes, it is something like that. Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatranam huyate. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth and to old age, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self realized soul is not bewildered by such change. Changing heart is just a change of material bodily organs. The heart is not the real source of life, and therefore, changing the heart does not prolong the duration of life. Dr. Singh, yes, most heart transplant patients. Uh,
Yeah.
yes, most heart transplant patients live only a very short time after the operation. But is it ever possible to transplant the soul from one body to another? Srila Prabhupada. Sometimes certain yogis can do that. They can find a better body and transfer themselves into it. Dr. Singh. When the doctors perform a heart transplant, they take a heart from someone who has just died and exchange it for a weak heart in someone else's body. Does the soul from the dead heart change from does the soul from the dead heart change places with the soul in the weak living heart? Srila Prabhupada, no, the soul has already left the dead heart. There is no question of bringing another soul. Dr. Singh, let me see if I understand you correctly. When the doctors have when the doctors remove the heart of a man who has just died, the soul has already left his heart. Then, when they transplant his dead heart into the body of the patient's soul passes into the transplanted heart. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, the soul is destined to live in a particular body for a certain number of years. You may change whatever part of the body you like, but you cannot change the duration of the life of that body. Dr. Singh. So, the heart is just a machine, an instrument. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, it is a sitting place of the soul. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So beautifully explaining, right? Heart transplants. Heart transplants. The feeling that when the heart transplanted, the soul also transplanted from other body to this body. But clearly, Srila Prabhupada is saying that it's a lump of flesh, but the soul is already there. Even though replace it, the soul lives in that transplanted heart. Yes. The soul is destined to live in a particular time. One more question asking, right? So what is it saying? Even though transplanted body, transplanted heart, but the person, whatever destined to live, he lives up to that point only. Right? When heart transplant means the duration of life never increased. Right? That's the thing. So Prabhupada is saying that. So this last two, let me read. Let me see if I understand you correctly. When the doctors remove the heart of a man who has just died, the soul has already left in his heart. Then, when they transplant his dead heart into the body of the patient's soul passes into the transplanted heart. Srila Prabhupada, yes, the soul is destined to live in a particular body for a certain number of years. You may change whatever part of the body you like, but you cannot change the duration of the life of that body. So the heart is just a machine, an instrument. Yes, it is the sitting place of the soul. That's the clarity is giving. So this was a scientific advancement during that time. Srila Prabhupada and his disciples asking. It's a normal, it's a thought-provoking, right? So because heart transplantation means the soul sitting place is heart. Then when the transplant take place, the soul transfers from one body to another body. Not right. That's not correct. But it's a soul is already there, which is not invisible, which is not visible, invisible, and just they are attaching this part of the body, and the soul's place is already there. And in this newly operated heart, soul is already there. We don't have power to see the soul, right? Then how can we say that soul is transferring from one body to another body with these heart transplants? Yeah, it's a lump of flesh. They are operating, and the soul never goes from that body. It's already there. And when doctors change this, this heart, the new heart transplanted, then the soul took place in that. It never changes actually. Yeah. Whoever here, right? I see Bharat Kumar. Hare Krishna. First time I'm seeing Hare Krishna Prabhu. Who is this? Okay, Hare Krishna. Okay. So, Hema Mataji, please go ahead and read this one.
Prabhuji, can
Hare
I do?
మాతాజీ చెప్పండి. ఎవరు అది? లిఖిత మాతాజీ?
Tulsi Prabhuji.
తులసి మాతాజీ. ఎస్ చేయండి.
Hare Krishna. A mustard seed in a bag of mustard seed. Dr. Singh, Srila Prabhupada, biologists tell us that there are many species of life that can reproduce without sex. Do the Vedas agrees with this? Srila Prabhupada. Oh yes, Dr. Singh. So we cannot curtail their reproduction? Srila Prabhupada. No. How could we? There are so many living entities that have come into this material world to enjoy life, and therefore reproduction must continue. This material world is like a jail. We cannot put an end to jails. As soon as one man leaves the jail, another is ready to enter it. This same question was discussed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 21. One of his devotees, Vasudeva Datta, said, "Please take all the living entities of this entire universe and release them from the material bondage. And if you think they are too sinful to be rectified, they just give all their sins to me." But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Suppose I, I were I were to take this entire universe and all the living entities with it, this is only one innumerable universes. It is just like a mustard seed in a huge bag of mustard seeds. If you removed one of the seed from the bag, what would be the difference? So reproduction cannot actually be stopped. Living entities are unlimited in number, and therefore it must continue." Dr. Singh, you have said that this material world is like a correction house to teach one to get out of the material entanglement and the cycle of repeated birth and death. Srila Prabhupada, yes. Therefore, you must practice Krishna consciousness.
Very good.
Hare Krishna.
Clarity, right, Mataji? Simple to understand, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes. Too clear.
Yeah. Yeah, another morning walk, 14th morning walk, December 3, 1973, Pacific Ocean near Los Angeles, with his disciples, Dr. Singh and Dr. Wolf Rotke. Okay. Hema Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, Prabhu, I'll read it. The origin of the interplanetary gases. Dr. Singh, the scientists say that at one point the Earth was composed of dust particles floating in some gaseous material. Then, in due course, this colloidal suspension condensed and formed the Earth. Srila Prabhupada. That may be, but where did the gas come from? Dr. Singh. They say it just existed. Srila Prabhupada. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7 chapter 4 shloka, Bhumir apo nano vayu kamano buddhireva cha ahankara itiyamme binna prakritir ashtada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. Here, Krishna explains that Vayu, gas, came from him, and finer than Vayu is calm, ether. Finer than ether is mind. Finer than mind is intelligence. Finer than intelligence is false ego. And finer than false ego is the soul. But the scientists do not know this. They understand only gross things. They mention gas, but where does the gas come from? Dr. Singh. They can't answer. Srila Prabhupada. But we can answer. From Srimad Bhagavatam, we know that gas has come from calm or ether. Ether comes from mind. Mind comes from intelligence. Intelligence comes from false ego. And false ego comes from the soul. Dr. Singh. The scientists argue that before Darwin's biophysical type of evolution could take place, there had to be what they call prebiotic chemistry or chemical evolution. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, and the term chemical evolution means that chemicals have an origin, and that origin is spirit or life. A lemon produces citric acid, and our bodies produce many chemicals in urine, blood, and bodily secretions. This is proof that life produces chemicals, not that chemicals produce life. Dr. Singh. Scientists say that once the seed of life is present in the cells, then the living entity automatically develops and functions. Srila Prabhupada. Yes, but who gives the seed? In Bhagavad Gita, 7 chapter 10 shloka, Krishna answers this question. Bijam mam sarva bhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam. O son of Pritha, know that I am the original seed of the existences. And later, in 14 chapter 4th shloka, सर्वयोनिषु कान्तेया मूर्तया सम्भवन्ति या तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनि aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes. The origin of interplanetary gases. ఎక్కడి నుంచి వచ్చినాయి అనేది సైంటిస్టులు say that at one point the earth was composed of dust particles floating in the some gaseous material. Then in due course, this colloidal suspension condensed and formed the earth. Straightforward question, that may be, but where did the gas come from? They say it just existed. And Prabhupada quotes from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Yes, that gas existed in the material nature that is created by Krishna. That is the perfect sloka, 7.4. Bhumirapunalavayu kammana buddhirevacha ahankara ityamye vinna prakritirastada. 5 gross elements, 3 subtle elements composed of this material body. Right? This material, all bodies, not only human body, all bodies, other living entities body also made up of this. Bhumirapunalavayu kammana buddhirevacha. Even ant can possess these 8 elements, gross elements and subtle elements. So that's where Prabhupada says here, but the scientists do not know this. They understand only gross things. They mention gas, but where does the gas come from? That's the thing. And Prabhupada quotes different verses, right? Chemicals and the bodies only creates chemicals, not chemicals come from. See, this is a proof that life produces chemicals, not that chemicals produce life. That means the chemicals come from living bodies. Life comes from life. Just like chemicals comes from life. 7.10, one more sloka Prabhupada quoting, right? And Dr. Singh question, what is scientists say that once the seed of life is present in the cells, then the living entity automatically develops and functions. But who is giving that seed? The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, 7.10, Bijam mama sarva bhutanam viddhi partha sanatanam. Hosanna Pruta, know that I am the original seed of all existences. And next verse, Prabhupada quotes 14.4, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murteya sambhavantiya tasham brahma mahadiyonir aham bija pradapita. It should be understood that all species of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. Mana source akkada nunchi undi. Our source is from Krishna. We have to remember these are important slokas. Actually, all these, wherever Prabhupada quotes from this Vedic literature, different slokas and verses, we should remember actually in connection with these discussions, right? How we interrelate or correlates to that point, to that question, right? Yeah, who is the seed giving father? Krishna is the seed giving father. What is the proof? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 14.4, aham bija pradapita. Where all these gases, chemicals come from, where? Is material nature, and that material nature created by him, and all the living entities come from him. He is a seed giving father. Yes. Giving credit to the primal creator. Giving credit to the primal creator. Yes.
Hare Krishna, should I read?
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Wolf Rotke. But in all humility, Srila Prabhupada, suppose the scientists actually succeed in artificially creating a living cell, what would you say? Srila Prabhupada, what would be their credit? They would only be imitating what already exists in nature. People are very fond of imitations. If a man in a nightclub imitates a dog, People will go and pay money to watch him. But when they see a real dog barking, they won't pay any attention to it. Dr. Singh, Srila Prabhupada, the idea of chemical evolution came from a Russian biologist in 1920. He demonstrated that before biochemical evolution, the Earth's atmosphere was in a state of reduction. In other words, it was mostly full of hydrogen with very little oxygen. Then, in due course, the sun's radiation caused the hydrogen molecules to form into different chemicals. Srila Prabhupada. This is a side study. First of all, where did hydrogen come from? Prabhu, can you please scroll? The scientists simply study the middle of the process. They do not study the origin. We must know the origin of that machine is the sea. Foolish person might say that all of a sudden a light appeared in the sea, and that's how airplane was created. But is that a scientific explanation? The scientists' explanations are similar. They say this existed and then all of a sudden by chance that occurred. This is not science. Science means to explain the original cause. Perhaps the scientists can create imitations of nature, but why should we give them credit? We should give credit to the original creator God. That is our philosophy. Dr. Singh. When a scientist discovers some natural law, he usually names it after himself. Srila Prabhupada is exactly. The law is already there in the nature, but the rascal wants to take credit for it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mata. Yes, thank you. Different scientists actually. The evolution came from a Russian biologist, 1922. It demonstrated that before biochemical evolution, the Earth's atmosphere was in a state of reduction. In other words, it was mostly full of hydrogen with very little oxygen. Then in due course, the sun's radiation caused these hydrogen molecules to form into different chemicals. This is a side study. So first of all, where did the hydrogen come from? So the simple question to ask. So they found different things, but what is the source? What is the source of all these molecules and different things? Chemicals, hydrogens, oxygen, carbon dioxide. They name it so nicely, but what is the source? How it's generated? How it's come from? They claim it on their names. Rascaldom. Prabhupada says Rascaldom. Rascal wants to take credit for it. But devotees, as we devotees, we acknowledge and we credit to Krishna. That is the source of everything is Krishna. Of course, different names, scientific names, hydrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, atoms, different things they found out. But what is the source for all this? Source is Krishna. Yeah. Gerontology, prolonging the suffering. Yeah. Likita Mata, you want to read? Hare Krishna Mataji. Yeah, Pallavi Mata, you want to read?
Yeah, Prabhuji. Gerontology, prolonging the suffering. Dr. Singh. They are actually fighting against the laws of nature, but often they take pleasure in the struggle. Srila Prabhupada. That pleasure is childish. Suppose a child builds a sand castle on the beach with great effort. He may take pleasure in it, but that is childish pleasure. That is not a grown man's pleasure. Materialistic men have created a standard of false happiness. They have created a gorgeous arrangement for a comfortable civilization, but it is all false because they cannot create a situation in which they will be able to enjoy it. At any moment, anyone can be kicked out by death, and all his enjoyment will be finished. Dr. Singh. That is why they say that God hasn't given us everything because we are not able to live here forever. Srila Prabhupada. But God has given them everything necessary to live peacefully and everything necessary to understand Him. So, why will they not inquire about God? Instead, they do things that help them forget God. Dr. Singh. Now, the scientists have organized a whole department in science called gerontology, in which they study how to prolong life. Srila Prabhupada. Their real aim should be to stop the suffering. An old man is in great pain, suffering from many diseases, and suddenly the doctors increase his lifespan. What is the profit? Dr. Singh. That is what they do with heart transplants. Srila Prabhupada. It is nonsense. Let them stop death. That would be an achievement. Let them stop all disease. That would be an achievement. They cannot do these things. Therefore, I say that all their research is simply a struggle for existence. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.7, Mamai Vamso Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Manaha Sat Sasthanindriyani Satsthanindriyani Prakriti Sthani Karsati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. Student, now there is a short now there is a shortage of oil, Srila Prabhupada. Yes, we have built a civilization that is dependent on oil. This is against nature's law, and therefore there is now an oil shortage. By nature's law, winter is now coming. Scientists cannot stop it and turn it into summer. They wrongly think they are in control of nature. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna informs us that the living being thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actually carried out by nature. The sun is now rising. Can they make it dark? And when it is dark, can they command the sun, get up? They do not realize that if they really want to conquer nature, they should try to conquer birth, death, old age, and disease. In Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Krishna says, Daivi hai, Daivi hai,
Say
Hayesa
Daivi Esha. Daivi Esha. He.
Daivi Hesha. Okay. Daivi Hesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mama Mama Evaye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Dr. Singh. So, is it very hard to overcome nature's laws? Srila Brother. For the materialists, it is impossible. But if one surrenders to Krishna, it becomes easy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. How nicely explaining. Gerontology, prolonging the suffering. Gerontology means they wanted to increase the life duration. There's a department called in which they study how to prolong life. But Prabhupada asking about prolong life means prolonging suffering. Right? As long as life is there, they have to suffer, right? Diseases comes. So better to stop these four problems. Then there is a big achievement. What are the four problems? Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadi. But they cannot do that. They cannot do that. అసలు వాళ్ళ చేతులు లేదు అది ఎందుకు వాళ్ళ చేతులు ఉంటుంది it's directly it's a loss, material loss. Who has given this material loss? Mataji's Prabhu's. Who has given this material loss?
Krishna.
Krishna has given material loss. The problems also Krishna has given. Mrityuloka, that's where material world called Mrityuloka. What is that Mrityuloka? Repeated cycle of birth and death. Right? Different forms of bodies and repeated cycle. Birth, death. In between, old age, disease. Why scientists cannot stop? These are all, foolish things. Gerontology, different departments there. But it's a simply waste of time, Prabhupada says. And the heart transplant also like that. Simply to stop death. Let them stop death. That's a big achievement. Let them stop all diseases. That's a bigger achievement. They cannot do these things. And Prabhupada quotes the verse. What is it? Mamevamsu jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana mana shashtanindriyani prakrutistani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. అంటే ఈ మెటీరియల్ వరల్డ్ లో ఉండే జీవులన్నీ కూడా నా నుంచి వచ్చినాయే. మై ఎటర్నల్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంటల్ పార్ట్స్. సనాతన ఎటర్నల్ అనమాట. సనాతన అంటే మై ఎటర్నల్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంటల్ parts due to conditioned life, conditioned states of life. They are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The six senses includes the mind. What are the five other senses? Basically, knowledge acquiring senses, which we receive, which we perceive the knowledge, right? Through eyes, ear, nose, tongue, right? Skin. So these things there. And Prabhupada says that. And then another students saying about the now there is a shortage of oil. Completely look at the motor car industry, industrialism, right? We have built a civilization that is dependent on oil. This is against nature's law. We never know now petrol why prices are going up and down because of shortage, demand and supply, right? That is a principle. Assume that one day there may a day that all these oils dried up. What about this? No motor cars, everything is done, doomed. This Prabhupada says this is against material law, and therefore there is now an oil shortage by nature's law. And Prabhupada again quoting the other example here. By nature's law, winter is now coming. Scientists cannot stop it and turn it into summer. They wrongly think they are in control of nature. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna informs us that the living being thinks himself doer of activities that are actually carried out by nature. The sun is now rising. Can they make it dark? When it is dark, can they come on the sun? That's it. These are the material laws. And behind there is a personality for each of these, Agni, Varuna, Vayu, sun god, moon god. There is a personality who is controlling, who is doing all these activities. We are not able to see their personality, but Shastra says that in all of these there is a personality who is doing this. Varuna, Vayu, Agni, sun god, moon god. Actually, in our body also there are many demigods who helps us to function. That is there. Problem with this material scientists are Daiviyesha Gunamaya Mamamaya Duratya Mamavaya Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But every the devotees, but those who have surrendered unto me. When we surrender to Krishna, he automatically takes care of us. I mean, in this material nature, even though we are in the material nature, if we surrender to Krishna and dedicate our lives to Krishna, is going to take care. That is for sure. It's a definitive statement from Krishna. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyam mokshayishyami masucha. Abandon all varieties of religion. Just surrender unto me. Ante. Surrender avandi. Krishna daggara sharanagati pondandi. That's it. I will take care of you. Do not fear. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. ఎన్నో సిన్స్ అక్యుములేట్ అయి ఉన్నాయి మనకు. We cannot count how many, but he will take care of everything. When we surrender to Krishna, that is the beauty. Surrendering process, it may take one lifetime, we never know. It may take few lifetimes. Only Krishna knows that. But Prabhupada emphasizedly and many times says that give one life to Krishna. Give this only one life to Krishna. That's it. He is going to take care of it. Right? For the materialist, it is impossible. But if someone surrenders to Krishna, it becomes easy to understand all this knowledge. So devotees is a most intelligent persons. They understood what is matter, what is spiritual world, what is the material world, what are the four problems of life, what exactly needs to be done, what is our time left in this material nature, how to utilize our time. These are all intelligent questions, and that answers come from scriptures and acharyas and from Krishna. They utilize their life in the service of the Lord. pleasing the Lord and his devotees, right? Yeah, we'll read with this section and then wrap up. Okay. Yeah. Anybody likes to read? This is another little bit big one. The real origin of species. The real origin of species. Anybody? Mataji?
Should I
I'll
read, Prabhu?
Prabhuji.
Yeah, carry on, carry on.
Okay.
Likita Mataji, చదువుతారా?
Okay, Prabhuji.
చదవండి లాస్ట్
Okay.
సెక్షన్.
The real origin of species. Dr. Singh, to explain why there are so many varieties of living entities, the scientists say that at a certain time during evolution, the cells, genes, which normally reproduce themselves perfectly for the next generation, sometimes makes a mistake in copying. Something like the printing press that different species of living entities
Sometimes
some,
make
makes mistakes. In some circumstances, these mistakes or mutations have stood, and different species of living entities have been formed because of the difference in genes. Srila Prabhupada. But that mistake has been continuing since the immemorial for you. Will find that all varieties of living entities have always existed. Therefore, the mistake is eternal. But when a mistake is permanent, it is not a mistake, it is intelligence. Dr. C. But scientists say that if there were no mutations, then there would be only one kind of living entity in the whole universe. Srila Prabhupada. No, every living entity has a different mind, and therefore there are so many different species of life to accommodate the different mentalities. For example, we are walking here, but most people are not coming to join us because they have different mentalities than we do. Why do this difference exist, Dr. C? Maybe it is a mistake. Srila Prabhupada. It is not a mistake. It is their desire. And at the time of death, everyone will get a body exactly according to his desire. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8.6, Yam yam yapi smaran bhavam त्यजयति अन्ते कलेवरम tam tam eva evaiti kaunteya sadha tadbhava bhavitaha. Whatever stage of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. What you are thinking of at the time of death exactly determines your next body. Nature will give you the body. The decision is not in your hands, but in nature's, and she is working under the direction of God. Doctors. But science seems to have evidence that different species of life do rise by mistakes. Srila Prabhupada. That is their mistake. In the laws of nature, there are no mistakes. In railway cars, there are first class, second class, and third class sections. If you purchase a third class ticket, but by mistake you go to the first class section, you will not be allowed to stay there. It is not a mistake that there are sections. That is the arrangement, but it is your mistake that you have gone to the wrong section. So God is so through that He knows all the mistake will be that mistake will be made. Therefore, according to the mistakes you commit, you enter a particular body. Here, come here. The body is ready. There are 8 lakhs, no, 84 lakhs species of life, and
right.
nature works, assigning different bodies with mathematical precision. When the government builds a city, it builds a prison even before the city is completed, because the government knows that there will be many criminals. You will have to go to the prison. This is not the government's mistake. It is the mistake of the criminals, because they become criminals. They have go to there. It is their mistake. In nature, there are no mistakes. Krishna says, Maya Dayakshena Prakrit Suyate Sar Sakar
Sacharacharam.
Sacharacharam Hetune Hetunena Kaunteya Jagat Vaipari Vartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and producing all moving and non-moving beings. Bhagavad Gita 9.10. Nature works under the supervision of God, Krishna. So, how can nature make mistakes? But we commit mistakes. We are illusion. Our senses are imperfect and we cheat. That is the difference between God and man. God does not have imperfect senses. His senses are perfect. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for reading, Mataji. Let me see few things. The real origin of species, right? So Prabhupada quotes one nice question made this devotee. Scientists say that if there are no mutations, then there would be only one kind of living entity in the whole universe. Srila Prabhupada says, no, every living entity has a different mind. And therefore, there are so many different species of life to accommodate the different mentalities. For example, we are walking here, but most people are not coming to join us because they have different mentality than we do. But as this difference exists, maybe it is a mistake. Yes. Srila Prabhupada says, it is not a mistake. It is their desire. And at the time of death, everyone will get a body exactly according to his desire. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tejate Ante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evavati Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavitaha. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body. And a desire, how we desire, that's most important. So in this lifetime, what are our desires? Our desires to go back home and see Krishna and serve eternally, or our desires to continually or perpetually rotting in this material world, to enjoying these material different bodies? Not enjoying, actually, it's a suffering, temporary enjoyment, permanent suffering in the material bodies. So it's a desire only. Prabhupada says it's not their mistake, it's a desire, right? In the while walking, only few of his disciples there, but many people are their own business. They are walking or they are different things. According to their mentality, they are doing their activities. So here, Prabhupada says it's not their mistake, it's their desire to enjoy whatever they likes to do. According to their desire, they gets the body. That's what this sloka says. Whatever state of being, if one thinks about too much enjoying, like non-veg, etc., he take birth as a tiger or lion, without meat they won't live, right? That living entities like that. The concept, the mentality of those persons, accordingly they get the body. The state he will attain without fail. Krishna says that tam tam evaiti kaunte sada tad bhava bhavitaha. So what you are thinking at the time of death exactly determines your next body. Nature will give you the body. The decision is not in your hands, but in nature's law. And she is working under the direction of God. And one more example is here given: jail, prison. That example also given. It's not government's mistake. It's the mistake of the criminals. Because they become criminals, they have to go there. It's their mistake. And Prabhupada given example in railway cars, first class, second class, third class. If you purchase the third class ticket and but by mistake go to the first class section, they won't allow, right? It's not a mistake that there are sections. That is the arrangement. Like that arrangement is 8,400,000 species. In other words, 84 lakh species of life. So what is saying? Yeah, you commit this mistake and you wanted to have enjoying that propensity in that body, then come here. Come here. The body is ready. 84 lakh species of life. Nature works in that way, right? Lastly, Prabhupada quotes again. In nature, there are no mistakes. Again, in Krishna's creation, there are no mistakes. It's living entities, they do mistakes because of their wrong desires. They get different bodies. Simple to understand. Mayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat viparvartate. Because Krishna created this material nature and is a perfect person, there is no question of mistakes. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Bhagavad Gita 9.10 sloka. Nature works under the supervision of God, Krishna. So how can nature make mistakes? But mana problem in the we commit mistakes. To err is human అంటారు కదా, మానవుడు తప్పులు చేయడం సహజం అనేది అంటారు. టు కమిట్ మిస్టేక్స్, దట్ ఇస్ వన్ థింగ్. వీఆర్ ఇల్యూజన్డ్. బయట రోడ్డు మీద ఒక తాడును చూసి పాము అనుకోవడము, ఇంకే మన విజిబిలిటీ అంటే దూరం నుంచి అక్కడెక్కడో కొండ ఉంటుంది, బట్ మబ్బులు కవరింగ్ వల్ల అక్కడ ఏం లేదనిపిస్తుంది. ఇల్యూజన్. అవర్ సెన్సెస్ ఆర్ ఇంపర్ఫెక్ట్. అంటే అవర్ ఐస్, ఎస్పెషల్లీ అవర్ ఐస్, బ్లంట్ సెన్సెస్ అంటే వీటికి బ్లంట్ సెన్సెస్ అంటే, బ్లంట్ సెన్సెస్ అంటే imperfect senses. We cannot see up to such point, right? Our eyes, there is a limitation. So because of our senses have limitations, so this is a problem. Commit mistakes, illusions, imperfect senses, and we cheat. Cheating propensity also there. So that is difference between the God and man. God does not have imperfect senses. His senses are perfect. His senses are perfect because he is a perfect. ఓం పూర్ణమదం పూర్ణమిదం పూర్ణాత్ పూర్ణముదచ్యతే పూర్ణస్య పూర్ణమాదాయ పూర్ణమేవాశిష్యతే. In his creation, he is complete. He is perfect creator. And there is no mistakes. And his senses are unlimited. Our senses are limited. Right? So thank you so much, Matajis and Prabhujis, for reading today. Let us meet on Wednesday. Tomorrow is Ekadashi. Please, whatever up to your capacity, please fast and do rounds and read Srila Prabhupada books. And yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Vanchakal patarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitai Gaura Hari Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Thank you all very much. మళ్ళీ మనం వెన్స్డే రోజు వెళ్దాం. హరే కృష్ణ. ధన్యవాదాలు.